Please rise for invocation by Pastor Scott Kirshner of Christ the King Community Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
God, we come before you this evening, thanking you for another night that we have to gather and look out for the well-being and welfare of our community and all that live within it. Thank you for Port Orange. We love this place. We believe it's one of the greatest places, not just in America, but on planet Earth. And we are privileged to be in this community. We thank you that we can come and in the freedom of our country, we can ask for your help to guide us, to give us wisdom, discernment, and the decisions that need to be made. Thank you for each of these leaders, these council members, all that serve alongside of them in partnership in making sure that this community is well cared for, taken care of, that we look to the future. I pray for them. I pray that you would guide them, that you would give them wisdom beyond their understanding, wisdom that can only come from you. Thank you, God, for the re-election of Mayor Burnett and Councilman Bastian. Lord, thank you for another 4 years that they have to serve our community. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege and the responsibility that comes with that. And I just pray that you would help them in this honor as they serve our people. We thank you that we can ask for your help, and we do that this evening. In the precious and powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Usually, the first meeting by our city, I was going to use the word statute, we have a charter. The first meeting of the month, for those watching at home wondering why we start 30 minutes late, the first meeting in December in an election year, and the first meeting in January in a non-election year is an organizational meeting, and by our city charter we start at 7 o'clock. On those meetings. So those of you that are wondering why we started half an hour late, that is why. But with that, I would ask for the Honorable Chris Kelly, who's here this evening, to come forward. At this point in time, we have a swearing-in ceremony. Drew, yes, you and I have some swearing to do. So
yes, we do. We going down?
We're going down.
George, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good to see you. Well, part of you.
Yeah. You stand by. You stand by. Okay. All right. Well, you come up here and you give me the camera. Come on, Beth. You know the drill. I'm just gonna be able to get out of it. Where is she? She's right there. Come on out. Come on down there. You guys sit behind me.
I gotta take those off. Fog it up.
Understand, I'm hoping mine don't fog up.
Yeah. It's
All
hard
right.
to see with that.
We ready? You
Okay.
raise your right hand.
We're doing the picture
But
first.
it's your swearing in, you
Yeah.
can do whatever you want.
I got you.
I state your name,
I, Drew Bastian,
a citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America,
a citizen of the state of Florida and the United States of America,
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida,
the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and the charter of the city of Port Orange,
and the charter of the city of Port Orange,
and that I will well and faithfully perform.
and I will well and faithfully perform
You did that well. The duties of council member of the city of Port Orange,
the duties of council member of the city of Port Orange,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I'm now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
You won't tell them that this is the third time you've taken that oath, but Drew, you got a few words?
I really don't. I'm just humbled and blessed to be able to do this. It's really kind of humbling to have the trust and support of the citizens, and this is my third go around. So for the next 4 years, I'm gonna do my best up there to not disappoint, and help Port Orange move forward and keep it a great place to live.
Please standing still here and then we'll be done.
You bet.
I smiled, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would ask for my family to come up. And Jay Pierce, you're my brother. Come on up.
Thank you. Drew.
And honestly, yeah, where they at? Point. Come on up. My in-laws. Jay, I believe the only one in the room that I've known longer is Chris.
Been a long time.
Yes, it has.
All right, whenever you're ready.
We got somebody to thank you.
I get you to raise your right hand, please. I state your name,
I, Donald O'Burnett,
a citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America,
a citizen of the state of Florida and the United States of America,
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida,
the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
and I am duly qualified to hold this office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and the charter of the city of Port Orange,
and the charter of the city of Port Orange,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of mayor
and I will well and faithfully perform the duties of mayor
of the city of Port Orange,
of the city of Port Orange,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
This is kind of a happy and sad moment because I know that these last 4 years have been terrific in so many ways, and I know these next 4 years can even be better in so many ways. And I say happy and sad because I know this is it. In 4 years I'm going to be done. So what can we do with it, council? We got to make it count. And like we always try to do, we're going to try to do that moving forward. And sad in some ways, because when I stood up here 4 years ago, we had been through some turmoil and we were starting to come out of it. We had a new city manager who was sitting in the back, and I said the words, "Buckle up." And man, has it been a ride. And now we're looking at 2020. And we all know that this year has been nothing of anything that any of us have expected. It has brought out the best in us, and then sometimes it's brought out the worst in us. But I know this: we get the best out of the people of this city, the people who serve it, because they look inside themselves. What have we got to offer? And how can I give the best of myself? That's what I'm asking of myself. How can I give the best of myself? Now, how do we get through this? I think it's time we ask ourselves, how do I get the best out of you and each other? If we can get the best out of each other, not only will we get through this, what has been the toughest of years, this community is going to be better for it in so many ways. And I pledge right here and right now, I've got 4 years. I want to make it count, and I want to make it count for the citizens of Port Orange. And I've got a great council. We work great together, and we are going to give it our all. And thank you. All right, Chris, you're fired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Jed. Good to see you.
With that, will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Ford.
Present.
Councilmember Tremont.
Here.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. We have a quorum. Item 5 is the election of a vice mayor. At this time, I will accept nominations for the vice mayor position for the following year.
I'll make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Scott Stiltner as vice mayor.
May I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Do I have any other nominations?
I'll make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Drew Bastian as the vice mayor.
All right, I'll second that one.
And I'm going to have to hope for a second.
Oh,
Do you know, I'll withdraw my motion if you.
Well, you can just second Drew, if you would.
Would you do-
I'll second Drew.
Okay. We have a nomination and a second for Scott Stiltner to serve as vice mayor. We have a nomination and a second for Drew Bastian to serve as vice mayor. Any other nominations? Nominations are now closed. Comments, questions? Gentlemen, you're campaigning.
I would like to respectfully decline. I think that with the uniqueness of what's going on currently in time right now that we're dealing with in our country, that the flexibility that may be needed for the vice mayor to step in is not something that currently right now I have. So I don't want to put the council or the city in that position, or myself. So I kind of feel like Drew's got more flexibility right now with time than I do. So I think that's probably going to be a very strong reason why we should consider a vice mayor that's going to have some of that flexibility for sure, time-wise at least.
I do plan on staying healthy.
And
A
I
little
hope that's-
big,
I hope
yeah.
that's the case. I'm not wishing anything otherwise,
Okay.
but nonetheless, I know you know, there's a lot of times too when the vice mayor does need to step in and help out,
Mhm.
Yeah.
attend
Absolutely.
events and other things. So
And
right
I
now,
have made that request in the past and will continue to.
And-
You can't
and
be
we'll
everywhere.
Continue to fill it, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of demands on you,
Mhm.
and you know, you're pulled in a lot of different directions, and I don't have equally as many demands, so I'd be honored and delighted to serve another year.
Well, and to make it simple, Chase, would you like to withdraw your nomination?
Withdraw my nomination.
I
And I
have
withdraw
one
my
nomination on the
second.
floor. I'm sorry?
I was the second, so I'll withdraw that for
Thank you.
Councilman Stim.
So we have a nomination of Drew Bastian for vice mayor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Signify by saying aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Signify by saying nay. Drew, you're hired.
All right, sounds good to me.
Yeah, the pay and benefits aren't any better.
I
but
know, that's okay.
Appointment council committees for 2021. We have a list, and I'm about to call it back up, of committees that we're all currently serving on. Is there any need or desire to swap out, or does everybody like what they're doing right now? Art House is currently Maryland. General Employees Retirement Trust Fund is currently Scott. River to CTPO is currently Scott. Municipal Firefighters Pension Board is Maryland. Municipal Police Officers Retirement Trust is Drew. Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce is myself. Roundtable of Elected Officials is myself, and First Step Shelter is Chase Tremont. If everybody's good with that, I'll accept a nomination for the slate.
I'm good with that, Are you good
So
with
moved.
that makeup? I'll second.
Comments, questions? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Committee appointments are,
Perfect.
for 2021, are in place.
Stay the same.
I will just comment that the ability to attend some of these things virtually has actually been quite nice in terms of time-wise and,
Yeah.
and being able to do that. And, you know, sometimes these meetings, the meetings seem to run a lot quicker too when they're virtual. I don't know what that is, but like the River to CTPO meetings, when you get that many elected officials in a room, sometimes an issue can get beat to death and you're there 3 hours before you know it. So, but anyway, yeah, happy to continue to serve on those.
With that, special awards reports, recognition, and proclamations. Item 7, awards ceremony for the police department. Chief Grimaldi, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members and citizens of Port Orange. If I could have front and present Mr. Michael Bramson, if he's here, yes, and Mr. Errol Tuggerell. Additionally, I'd like to have Officer Thomas Jovanovic and Officer Michael Gilleram as well. Anywhere you want, sir. That's perfect.
Perfect.
On June 21st, 2020, the police department received a medical call for service about a citizen experiencing an unknown medical episode while bicycling in the Doris Leeper Preserve. Officers Thomas Jovanovic and Michael Gilleram responded and were met by two good-hearted citizens, Mr. Michael Bramson and Mr. Errol Tuggerell, both of whom quickly offered their assistance to the officers. The officers and the Good Samaritan citizens were able to locate the patient several hundred yards in a deeply wooded preserve area. Mr. Bramson, an off-duty paramedic who was cycling in the preserve at the time of this incident, immediately began performing CPR on the patient. Unable to get a vehicle into the thickly wooded area, Officers Jovanovic, Gilleram, and Mr. Branson and Mr. Tuggerell all carried the patient out of the densely wooded area to a patrol vehicle where Mr. Bramson continued performing CPR on the patient in the back of the patrol car. Once out of the preserve, the patient was turned over to EVAC and Port Orange Fire Rescue, who continued performing CPR efforts. Everyone's actions on that day were instrumental in saving the patient and could not have been done without each other. Officers Thomas Jovanovic and Michael Gilleram are hereby awarded the Award of Merit for their actions on June 21st, 2020. Mr. Michael Bramson and Mr. Errol Tuggerell are hereby awarded the Port Orange Police Department's Citizen Commendation for their selfless and heroic actions by subjecting themselves to such a physically and mentally demanding ordeal to assist the police department and a fellow citizen in need. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you so much for your service. Mr. Tuggerell did call the police department this afternoon, we reached out to him, was unable to attend. We will make sure that his commendation gets to him. Again, I say this all the time, Mr. Mayor, there you are. Again, just like last month, these are just small indications of what our officers do on a daily basis, but this particular one really, truly tells what Port Orange is about in my estimation. When citizens such as Mr. Bramson, Mr. Tuggerell assist our officers without any expectation of anything out of it, just to be helpful and be good Samaritans to our other citizens, as the pastor said earlier, that's what makes Port Orange. So thank you so much for your actions.
Chief, if I can just interject real quick for those that are watching maybe at home or will watch this later. If you're not familiar with where the Doris Leeper Preserve is, there could not be a more challenging area in the city of Port Orange for something like this to occur. So it is an incredible feat and act of service in an incredibly difficult area with not easy terrain. It's a fun place. It's beautiful. I encourage, if you don't know where Doris Leeper Preserve is, Google it, look it up. Check out the topography, and it speaks volumes to what something like this must have taken. So my hat's off to everybody. What a great job.
And to add to it, just for everybody's knowledge, this was a typical late June Central Florida day. It was high 90s and high humidity, if I remember correctly. And so to add to the dense nature of the topography, extremely challenging. As I said, physically challenging, but just as much mentally challenging when you're dealing with a patient that is in need of assistance. So,
well done.
Thank you, guys. Well
Excellent.
Chief, get over here.
Sir, yes, sir.
Stand with your manifestation. Mike, you're the only one? Okay.
That's all I have for tonight, Mayor.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
Moving right along, I'd like to recess the council as we convene in the Town Center CRA City Council joint meeting. I call the special joint meeting of the Town City Community Redevelopment Agency and Port Orange City Council together to order. We'll call the roll of the Town Center.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Ford,
Present.
Councilmember Tremont,
Here.
Councilmember Stiltner,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bastian,
Here.
Mayor Burnett,
Here.
Chair Ray Donadio,
Here.
and Stan Schmidt.
We'll call the roll for the members of the City Council.
Councilmember Ford,
Present.
Councilmember Tremont,
Here.
Councilmember Stiltner,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bastian,
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Do we have an objection to the notice of meeting? Hearing no objection, the notice is accepted. We are here tonight to review the layout and design of this trail for Phase 3 of the Riverwalk Park and to designate the city manager as authorized agent for the Port Orange the Port Orange Town Center City CRA and the City Council for the purpose of executing all developments related to applications for outside review agency permits, and other applications related to the completion of Phase 3 of Riverwalk. I want to advise the City Council will vote to approve the trail layout and design of Riverwalk Park Phase 3 and to authorize the city manager to act on behalf of the City Council for the development-related permitting. Chairman Donadio will call for consideration the same on behalf of the city, for the CRA. At this point in time, I would ask for item 2 to be opened.
So moved.
Second.
Item 2 is open, and I believe this is the part where you present.
Tim Burbank,
You probably want, is that the only item, or is there another item?
just the one item tonight.
Okay, all right. I saw Phase 3 next to item 2, and that messed with me for a second.
Tim Burbank, Community Development. This has kind of got two requests in this one item, though. The first is the approval of the general layout of the trail and the design. I think we've all seen kind of the Phase 3 layout over multiple renditions of items here. Then we've got the trail designed by Parker Mitchenberg and Associates. That's the agreement that the council had done back in September to have him design it. It is near completion. We've kind of included a graphic there that shows the general layout of the trail. The design of the hardscape trail is consistent with Phase 2. Will consist of the walk lights, the trash receptacles, the benches. The landscaping is a little bit different. In Phase 3, we try to utilize more of the existing native landscaping there, the oak trees, the palm trees. Staff community development worked closely with Parks and Rec in terms of what landscaping goes in there to make sure that we are consistent with the maintenance responsibilities that will come down the road then. So we worked with Parks and Rec on achieving a good architectural or landscape design that kind of utilized the natural in there then. So that's kind of the only difference that you'll see kind of between the trail segments, but we've designed it so it kind of does blend in as you go through then. It will make the connection with Dunlawton Avenue and will complete the trail from Dunlawton Avenue to Riverwalk Park. That's the first item, is basically just a general acceptance of the trail design. And the last item is, as part of any development project, we have agencies, St. John's, FDOT, that they have to have permits submitted to them. As in this case, basically we have multiple ownerships, either the CRA or the City Council. So we're requesting that the City Manager be authorized to sign on behalf of both the CRA and the City Council for those development applications that Parker Mitchenberg and Associates will submit to those agencies for review. Staff has reviewed those applications already, and they are consistent and comply with code. And we're just seeking the acceptance of the trail, and then the other item is to authorize the City Manager to sign those applications for both the CRA and the City Council.
Comments or questions, council? And members of the CRA? Comments or questions?
None.
I see none.
Tim, can you walk through on
I see one.
Herbert Street? So how is the layout for vehicular traffic stopped there or contained on Herbert? Because I know we got still a property there, a residence, right?
Yeah, they will still have access, basically to that there. And then we've redesigned the entrance into the city's property then to have the driveway there, and then there will be the bollards similar to what we have over on Ocean
Okay.
to block the traffic going into the trail area then.
So if a car turns down Herbert Street for that small amount up here, how do they turn around?
They'll be able to turn around into the public, essentially where the city's property is now.
Okay.
There then, that will have an access drive that will
Use
be
that
open.
drive,
That will
those three-
basically be able to kind of
Pull
do
in.
pull in, pull
Turn
out,
around.
go back
Kind of
then.
a 3-point turn?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
could probably basically, as part of this then, when we get it constructed, be able to work with Public Works on some signage then too, to notice drivers that do that then.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question.
Okay. Any other questions? Would anyone here from the public care to comment? Seeing none, back to us. Final comments from the CRA and the City Council? There being none, call the roll.
Chase
Or-
Draymond.
Yes.
Drew Bastian.
Yes.
Scott Stiltner.
Yes.
Marilyn Ford.
Yes.
Don Burnett.
Yes.
Chairman Ray Donadio.
Donadio.
Sorry.
Is this a vote on the motion?
I'm sorry that that was supposed to be we have to have 2 votes, one from the CRA and one from the
City Council.
City Council, and Chair Donadio has to call the vote for the CRA, so
Gotcha.
we'll wipe that out, and I'll let Chair Donadio call the CRA vote, and then I'll back up and do this again.
First I'll ask for a motion by the CRA on item 2 for approval of the trail layout and design and designating the city manager to act as the authorized agent for Port Orange City Town Center Community Redevelopment Agency.
So moved.
Oops, second.
Got a motion, we got a second?
Okay.
Shelby, you
Now,
got that?
yes.
Call the roll, Shelby?
Chase Draymond.
Yes.
Drew Bastian.
Yes.
Scott Stiltner.
Yes.
Marilyn Ford.
Yes.
Don Burnett.
Yes.
Chairman Ray Donadio.
Yes, and I like Donadio too, that's a nice one.
We have to
That's
pay.
Italian name.
We have to
Yeah.
pay him more if you pronounce it like that.
Now I would ask the City Council move to approve the trail layout and design for Phase 3 of Riverwalk Park associated site improvements subject to the requirements of the Land Development Code, and designate the city manager as an authorized agent in the City of Port Orange for the purpose of executing all development related applications for Phase 3 of Riverwalk Park.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Draymond.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Any other further business to be brought before the members of the Town Center Redevelopment Agency and the City Council? There being none, I'll entertain a motion for this joint special meeting to be adjourned.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The special meeting is adjourned, and we reconvene as council. Which brings us to the agenda for the evening. Ray, thank you very much. Public comments on consent agenda items. There being none, may I have a approval for the agenda for the evening?
I think we have
Mayor, I move to pull agenda item 14 from the consent agenda.
May I have a second?
Second.
Also, I think we need to note before we approve the items 18 and 19 are being continued to the 15th.
We'll get that. We got to open the public hearing portion of it first.
Okay.
We have a motion to pull item 14 from consent. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So
Motion to
moved.
approve.
We have a motion and a second from Drew Bastian. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda for the evening. Item 14 is no longer on consent. May I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Items 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15. We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Draymond.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Item 14, resolution number 20-68.
Yeah.
You ready? Here's my question. This is authorizing the city manager and the mayor to do signature cards with TD Bank. And here's my question. Given that in a matter of just, 10 days, we're going to have an interim, is this something that will need to be re-signed? And if so, then I would suggest bringing this back at the December 15th meeting as opposed to acting on it now. If this is something that the manager in his current capacity, if it carries forward and there's no need for new signatory cards, then
We do
I
want
would
everybody's
suggest we act on
paycheck
it.
not to bounce.
Pardon me?
We do want paychecks not to bounce.
Oh, well, but this is a CD. It didn't
Yeah.
look like our
Yeah, this is a
pay
CD.
was coming off of this.
No. Those are all direct deposits anyway. Alan, do you have the answer to that? Matt, do you have the answer to that?
Right, so in the resolution, we've actually made it for the position rather than a specific person, so we did want to do that considering what you just stated. So this doesn't apply to paychecks, that's another good thing, it's just a CD, so paychecks will continue, I hope.
Okay, then I have no objection, given that it's position-based and not person-based.
Got it. Resolution number 20-68 is a resolution of the City of Orange, Volusia County, Florida, authorizing the mayor and the city manager to act on behalf of the city for transactions related to the deposit account held by TD Bank, N.A., authorizing the mayor and the city manager to execute all documents required for such purposes, superseding prior resolutions, providing for conflicting resolutions, and providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve resolution number 20-68.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. Any other comments or questions on the item? Would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, final comments or questions? Being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Board appointments, fire pension board appointments. We have one opening. Jim Reardon is currently serving. He has indicated his desire to be reappointed, and we also have an application from Mr. James Dodge. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I would move to reappoint Jim Reardon as trustee on the fire pension plan.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to nominate Jim Reardon for reappointment to the fire pension board appointment. Do we have any other nominations? There being none, nominations are now closed. Council, we have one nomination for one position for Mr. Jim Reardon to be reappointed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Jim Reardon is
Jim.
reappointed.
Jim is here.
And he's here.
There he is, too. You obviously like the pay and benefits of this.
I enjoy it, actually.
Well, considering what you do for a living, it's no wonder, but we appreciate your service to us and to the citizens of Port Orange on that board. For those that don't know, Mr. Jim Reardon is a financial advisor by trade, so he knows a thing or two, and I think it's important when we look at our boards, it's important to know that we're putting the right expertise on those boards, and I think we've done that there in the past, and we appreciate your willingness to continue to serve.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Citizen participation, non-agenda, do we have any? Nope, okay. Council comments and concerns. Marilyn, we'll start at your end tonight.
No comments or concerns.
Chase?
No concerns, but just a congratulations on the swearing in for our mayor and our vice mayor. It's an honor to serve with both of you. It's an honor to serve with this entire council, for that matter.
Indeed. Drew?
I would second that. Congratulations to you. It has been it is an honor to serve up here, and very fortunate to be where we're at and have that trust and everything. So greatly appreciate that, and looking forward to the next 4 years with all you guys. I love it.
Scott?
Congrats to you both. I've got nothing else tonight.
I just wanted to say thank you to the four of you, because I could not be more honored to serve with a better team of individuals who are all committed to the betterment of this city and this community. And I look forward to the next 4 years of serving with you. This is not a one-person party by any means or stretch of the imagination. It takes a team of the council, and we may be a unified 5 up here as far as our commitment to this community, but we're just the head of a much larger team of people that work for this city every single day to serve its citizens. And we don't always get it right, but we're gonna give it our best, and that's all I can ever ask of anybody. And I appreciate the confidence and faith that everybody's put in us, not just me, but in all of us, to try and meet that mandate. Public hearing items is now open. Items 18 and 19, because of an advertising error, I would request that a motion to continue those items, item 18 and 19, to date certain of December 15th.
Move to continue items 18 and 19 to the December 15th meeting.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That brings us to item 20. Item 20 is second reading. And we, Debbie Dorino had, do I say that last name right? Okay. Okay. I've been saying it that way. I just want to make sure that I'm giving proper credit. We had an adequate shelter definition at first reading that was simply adequate but not excellent. There's a play on words right there. And because of that, there is a proposed revision to the definition. I'll read the ordinance here in a second, along with the suggested change. Ordinance of the City of Ordinance number 2020-38 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending Chapter 10, Section 10-3 of the Code of Ordinances to add definitions for adequate food, adequate water, adequate shelter, amending Chapter 10 to add regulations related to tethering dogs or cats to stationary objects while outdoors, providing for codification, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Now, before I accept a motion for that, the initial definition of adequate shelter means a covering that is structurally sound and suitable for the species, age, condition, size, and type of each animal, is properly ventilated, and provides adequate space for each animal, protects each animal from rain or direct sunlight, and is properly cleaned. The proposed revision to the definition, and I would, after reading it, accept a motion to approve the ordinance with the revised definition. That being, adequate shelter means provision of access to a secure weather-resistant shelter that is suitable for the species, age, condition, height, size, breed, and type of each animal. Provides adequate area ventilations, adequate space for each animal to stand up and turn around, is safe and protects each animal from injury, rain, hail, direct sunlight, the adverse effects of heat or cold, physical suffering, and the impairment of health. Is properly lighted, is properly cleaned, enables each animal to be cleaned and dry, except when detrimental to the species. During hot weather, is properly shaded and a covering and does not readily conduct heat. During cold weather, has a windbreak at its entrance and provides a quantity of bedding material consistent of straw, cedar shavings, or the equivalent that is sufficient to protect the animal from cold and promote the retention of body heat. And for dogs and cats, provides for a solid surface, resting platform, pad, floor mat, or similar devices large enough for the animal to lie on in a normal manner and can be maintained in a sanitary manner. Under this chapter, shelters whose wire, grid, or slate floors permit the animal's feet to pass through the openings, sag under the animal's weight, or otherwise do not protect the animal's feet or toes from injury are not considered adequate shelter. May I have a motion for approval with the proposed revision of
Mayor,
definition?
point of order.
Mhm.
The proposed revision that you've indicated, I think, is more appropriately handled
Mhm.
as a motion to amend the original ordinance,
Mhm.
because this is not a simple inclusion of certain words that greatly expands the definition.
I'll accept such said motion.
Motion to amend the anti-tethering or the tethering ordinance to include the revision.
May I have a second for that amendment?
Second.
May I have a motion to approve the ordinance?
Mayor, I'd like to speak against the amendment.
Okay, let me get a motion for the ordinance, and then we'll be having a a conversation on both.
Move to approve the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion second. The item for the ordinance and the amendment is on the floor and open for discussion. Go ahead.
I would like to speak against it. Well, I agree in concept, and I think it's good. I think it is so detailed that it really poses problems with enforcement. And I think the first definition that was supplied at the first reading is something that is doable and something that is more appropriate for the city to look at. I think the issue of enforcement and our ability to inform the citizens of all the details in this definition go far beyond what the reality is that Port Orange government can do. So while I agree with it in concept, at this instance, I think perfect is really the enemy of something that is appropriate and the appropriate role of council. So I'm going to be voting against the amendment.
Okay. Chase, comments on the amendment or the ordinance?
No comment.
Drew?
No comment.
Scott?
No.
Would anyone here care to speak to the item? Anyone? Anyone at all? Could it be? Could it be? Come on up. Gosh, golly gee, I had a feeling.
Debbie Dorino. Do you need my address for my Christmas card? 6795 Calistoga Circle, Port Orange. To address your concerns, the adequate shelter definition is also passed in the other cities, some of the other cities in Volusia County, and I'm going through each city to make it uniform so that if you were in, say, Port Orange and you moved to Holly Hill, it doesn't change. It's the same definition no matter where you go. So you're not going from city to city saying, oh, it's this what I have to have here, but oh, I can't have it over here. So it stays the same. It's also, it is also the state law in several other states. It's presented also by the Humane Society of the United States. It is backed by the state director of the HSUS, Kate McFall, and the Humane Society of the United States. It is, it's not really as difficult as it probably sounds. The goal is to not have, like in the pictures that I had sent in, to not have everybody's concept of what it should be. Is it just like a wire cage with some piece of wood over it? Is it an igloo? What is it? So right now they're not doing a really good job at what adequate shelter should be for the animals, and they're not protecting the animals. So I think that because it's in the ordinances and not everybody, obviously reads the ordinances as animal control knows, then that's just an issue that every city in the United States has. Who reads your ordinances? Probably nobody until they get cited for it. Then they learn. Their first, your first offense is really just an education on what you should have your animal in. If you keep violating it or don't follow through with it, well then that's your, decision what your consequences for that. But typically in the other cities, what we're not doing is trying to give people a hard time, but more educate them on what they're supposed to have. Some people don't even have the funds to put a shelter or a doghouse in their yard. The county will, for free, give those people an adequate shelter doghouse for their animals if they can't afford one. I just had one sent down to New Smyrna Beach for a 8-month-old shepherd that's tethered 24/7, and his shelter is a dog crate that you would buy at Walmart that you transport your animal in. This dog is going to keep getting bigger, and the crate's not. So when I say it needs to be big enough for your animal, also as your animal grows. So that's really not adequate shelter, putting him in a box.
Thanks.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak to it? There being none, back to council. Any other comments? Or questions? On the amendment, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
No.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-1. On the ordinance, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. And that closes the public hearing portion of our meeting. Item 21 is discussion of interim city manager compensation. Summary provided for that item is that Alan Rosen will be working at a higher classification for more than 30 days as interim city manager. Under the city's civil service rules and regulations, an employee who serves for more than 30 days at a higher classification is entitled to be paid at a higher grade during such temporary service. This policy is not binding on the City Council, but may be used to guide the discussion. Staff is seeking direction on what adjustment, if any, should be made to the compensation of Alan Rosen while serving as interim city manager. Jamie, you want to give us some information and some insight before
Some
we
numbers.
Jamie Miller, Administrative Services Director. Recently, you've appointed Alan Rosen as interim city manager upon Mr. Johansson's separation. So provided a item here today for your consideration, direction, what information you may need to make a decision, if any, on any adjustment in compensation for Mr. Rosen during this tenure. The policy as stated in the civil service rules and regulations is typically a 5% or the higher of the new starting rate. In this case, the starting rate would not be applicable. Obviously, this is just a policy that would apply to our civil service employees. Appointed officials are not subject to these policies and procedures. So I provide this to you as a reference point, a discussion point, but really the council would be able to make whatever decision they feel appropriate tonight.
Okay, so you won't mind if it comes out of your department's budget to...
I believe there's sufficient funding in the city manager's budget to address any
Excellent.
items that you need to address
Good
tonight.
answer. Council, questions or comments on the item? Why don't you start with Scott?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. No, I think it's a reasonable request. I think it's, after 30 days, it's a standard in their industry and in that market that would occur. I think the 5% is reasonable after 30 days. And I do think you have to recognize that you're asking somebody to take on a little bit more responsibility than they would normally, albeit for a short amount of time. But I also think there's great value for Alan as well and the opportunity to do this. So that, along with a little bump, I think would be very fair for him.
Drew?
Yeah, I'd agree. He's going to have a greater demand placed on him, greater responsibility. It's not a short appointment. We're looking at probably 6 months, perhaps more. But yeah, it definitely there should be some compensation. I'm not sure on the number right this second, but something should be done for him moving forward.
Chase?
No, I don't have anything to add to what was already said. I agree. 5% is the market value, and that's, you know, he certainly has a lot more to his plate now. He's in a different position, so I'm okay with what we decide if it's in line with that recommendation.
Marilyn?
The only thing I would say is I would propose that we provide the 5% compensation effective the 12th of December. because while the rule talks about serving more than 30 days, it doesn't mean that you can't compensate before that. And I think the 30 days is really designed for, you know, somebody who starts filling in unexpectedly and then it continues on. So ergo, they need more compensation. This we've done with full knowledge that we are assigning him all the duties effective immediately. So I think compensation should begin the first full day of employment as the interim city manager.
Jamie, I got another question, if you don't mind me.
Go ahead.
Can you clarify again where the 5% came from? Because I think somebody said industry standard, but I thought I heard you say it applied to civil service.
Correct, yeah. So I do want to be clear that that is not necessarily a market point.
Okay.
And we did provide in our last meeting some market references for a city manager position. I can provide some of that additional information as well if it's the pleasure of the council. The 5% is what is in the civil service policy as our standard adjustment in somebody performing these duties.
Okay, I just wasn't clear on where that came from. 'cause
Right, not necessarily market, but a
but
standard
the
policy.
standard, okay.
I don't want to, me personally, I want to do something that's reasonable and measured, not out of line and not going to break the bank, nor take us out of the range of the budget. And at the same time, we're not exactly we're hiring, in a David Harden, we hired an interim manager that'd been doing it for 30 years. And that was something we needed an employment contract for, where he was not employed by the city and needed a definitive amount of time since he was going to relocate here. There are a lot of differences between that and this.
I agree.
Alan is currently employed by us as the assistant city manager, and as of 5 p.m. next Friday, the interim city manager. And I do think that Marilyn's point of when that pay should begin should be commensurate with when he begins that responsibility, as we spelled out by time, and that, you know, that being my opinion. That being said, would anyone here care to speak to the item?
Anybody?
There being none, I need a motion.
Motion to grant a 5% compensation increase effective December 12th when his interim title officially starts.
For the period of time that he
And-
serves as interim manager.
Absolutely.
May I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second on the floor to adjust Alan Rosen's pay by 5% effective when he takes the position officially for the time period in which he serves as interim city manager. Council, any follow-up discussion or questions? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stillner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Discussion of YMCA rent deferral agreement. See, Chris is out there somewhere, isn't he? Alan, would you like to frame the topic for us?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Council, as you remember, last council meeting, I think it was last council meeting, we had a discussion about YMCA's contract. They've had a contract with us to rent a building over here in City Center for a very long time. The current contract is up in 2027. This year, they recently contacted us and requested a deferral of rent. While we worked on a contract to see what council's pleasure was moving forward, they received a 50% rent, actually 100% rent deferral for October, November, 50% for December. And the proposal from YMCA is to have a 50% rent deferral for calendar year 2021 to be paid back at 20% a year for 5 years starting in 2022. In this agenda, Council is provided with additional background information, some financial information regarding some of the possibilities that Council may want to consider, and a recommendation. And Chris is here to
Alan,
provide
go ahead
you-
and give us those options for us to consider so that those are top of mind and so the public understands what we'll be evaluating along with your recommendation, and then we will hear from the Y.
Sure. So, you know, as in any recommendation or any possible course of action, it doesn't, I put 3 here. It doesn't have to be any of these 3. It could be a mixture. It could be none of these 3. I just tried to provide some well-rounded ideas and then a recommendation. One, of course, is, you know, that we do have a current contract that runs through 2027, and the council can say we need to continue to abide by that contract. The broker opinion of value for the rent in that space is below market value, and we already provide some support in that way. Another option would be to agree to YMCA's proposal, which I mentioned before, the 50% for a year and then paid back over 5 years. And then third option would be the current contract that we have has an agreed upon 18-month notice to cancel lease without cause for any reason by either party. The reason we put that in the agreement was for situations, if it comes to that and that's the way council wants to go, provides both organizations the time that we would need to prepare for that move. So no matter where we are in the year, we're going to have another budget process where we would come back to council and say, here's our detailed plan about what we're going to do. And the YMCA would stay there for those 18 months, provide the service they provide, and be able to also work with their constituents and their members on the education of what their plans are moving forward. The recommendation I had in here was that you know, council was interested last time in kind of talking to the YMCA about what their financial plans are to see if they thought that it was plausible that the money that they're asking for a deferral would be paid back when requested or when asked from the YMCA. So the recommendation is if council feels that, one, this is a public good that the council wants to provide a benefit to YMCA for, and/or the rent deferral is not an issue, or if they feel it's going to be paid back, then there's no issue. If the council feels that those aren't things that they want to provide or consider, that it would be a good time to place that 18-month notice out there to YMCA, and then we could work with them to work on that separation over the next 18 months.
We still have the option and opportunity to invoke that later if we entered into some kind of an agreement and we felt that one of the two parties were unable to meet that. Wouldn't we be able? We could do that later, couldn't we?
That is correct.
Okay. Questions for Alan, council? Let's hear from the Y. Chris is here, and I think you've met with all of us individually.
I have communicated with everyone
Yes.
individually.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to meet with Commissioner Bastian because I had a conflict that came up my schedule. Chris Silcott, CEO for the Volusia Fire Department YMCA. With me is Mr. Tom Tinsley. Mr. Tinsley is our finance chair for the Corporate Finance Committee. He's also a former board chair for the probably Greater Daytona YMCA back in the day, and also a former bank president. So he has a grasp on numbers. He keeps me straight many times. So if you will indulge me, I do have a slideshow that if you would like to see. It'll be about 10 slides, about 5 minutes. I'll run through it pretty quickly because I think everyone has reviewed it, but just so everyone's sake. So if you go to the first slide, please. Or I can control that from here. Oh, great, fantastic. Oh, thank you very much. All right, so the slideshow, of course, moving forward, because that is where we're going, and let me go down here. Okay, so real quick, I'll touch on the 5 points that we're looking at for a business plan. And pretty much all these points I identified, honestly, about 3 months into the job. So this isn't something that came up in the past month. This is something I started working on last year, long before COVID, because I identified some business problems that the YMCA has occurred and happened over the year. So we're going to restructure the membership category as of January 1st. So we're going to go to a 2 membership. It'll be a basic membership, gym only, and then we're going to go to a plus membership, which includes all the other amenities, pool, Group X classes, cycling classes, what have you. Reason is because of overhead. It's time that the YMCA starts allocating the proper amount of expense to the members using amenities that have a higher overhead. So for years, the YMCA had a one price for everything, and in today's market, it's not working out real well. So we're going to change the structure, how we do it, and also to better equip ourselves to handle the third-party entity, which I'll touch on quickly. So talking about third-party, we're going to move the third-party to a self-pay for program use. And what I mean by that, and third-party is individuals who do not pay for membership themselves. Another entity, third-party, pays for them. So many times it's an insurance company. So for, I'm not too sure if the city of Port Orange still has Florida healthcare plans, but if you did or when you did, those employees got to use a YMCA for free because the insurance company paid for the membership, but we only got paid per visit. So when someone came 2 times to use the pool, we got paid, let's say, $7, but yet it cost us a lot more than that to maintain the pool with chemicals, lease payment to the city. So it became a situation where your everyday members were subsidizing our third pay members because they had to cover those costs. When our membership dropped 55%, the regular members during COVID, we cannot afford to continue subsidizing the third-party memberships. It's just not feasible at this time because we don't have the revenue coming in from the people who have, mainly actually they haven't dropped their memberships, they have frozen their memberships or put it on hold. So we have over 500 units on hold right now, which is actually, we're not getting money, but when they come back, it's a tune of about $20,000 a month that we have sitting out there. The third party is changing our third party contracts to a long-term sustainability, and it's not only us, every YMCA pretty much is dealing with it. The Houston YMCA, third largest in the nation, $120 million budget, cut all ties with third-party vendors in this past year. Our YMCA unfortunately got into a position where we got, I would call, over-leveraged with them. So from 2016, I did a back study. Coming forward, our membership increased from 2016 to pre-COVID, but our revenue declined. And the reason is because we became over-leveraged to a point where 68% of our units were third-party. And we actually got cannibalized many years ago because many of our members who were paying the monthly fee, when the employer changed over to an insurance plan, then they hopped off the pay, went to the insurance plan, weren't paying a dime, but yet may not have been showing up as consistently, and that cannibalized us to a very dangerous degree. The 10th part is enhanced group exercise and indoor cycling programs. And when I told the board, and he's heard me say this many times, we have to start fighting in the family realm and get out of the individual fitness realm and start doing more group exercise. And unfortunately with COVID, one of the side effects of it prevents a lot of social interaction, which is the backbone of the YMCA. The YMCA is seen as the community center in many communities. That's where the seniors go to socialize. Many seniors, that's their only outlet for socialization, is going to the YMCA. Unfortunately, that has been at the core of the pandemic is no more socialization in groups, which thus has hurt us. But I think going forward, this is a plan I started on last year before COVID, is we need to enhance our group exercise. That's one area I think in every community that we have a presence is that there's a need of it. And I actually have an agreement with Halifax Health, where they are going to sponsor upgrading all of our group exercise programs with heart rate monitors. And we're going to do it for all of our group health and also for our cycling classes. And it's something that no one in the community is doing, but it's something that Halifax and us talked about, hey, what can we do that furthers the technology of the industry and the health of the people in the community. And this is something that when you work out, you'll get a report after you work out, you get an email to you, you get it on your phone, on your watch, and tell you what your workout was, what your heart rate was. And also for the instructors, it gives them a good idea, okay, who's who's sandbagging the workout and who's also overexerting on the workout. So it's something that we plan to introduce. Halifax put it on hold. They called me about 3 weeks ago and said, hey, we want to start moving forward with this in 2021. And something that we look forward to install at all of our branches. And it's going to be about a $400,000 investment that they're going to be making into the YMCA. And the last part is facility renovations to the Ormond and DeLand. And the reason it affects Port Orange, I bring this up because many times it's been communicated that you don't want to be subsidizing the taxpayers of Port Orange for other cities' YMCAs, which is understandable. So my job as CEO is to make sure I get all of the YMCAs in a better financial, fiscal situation. And so Ormond will be actually the top tier. Ormond, we're about $400,000 away fundraising from changing the basketball gym into a fitness center. We think that will have a tremendous impact on the fiscal operation of that branch. We're also installing a second group exercise room and doing the spin room, expanding that. Doing the same thing for the DeLand facility. Can you see a trend here? It's going to a second group exercise room, going to a better spin room, upgrading those amenities. So, and we feel that those two things, of course, DeLand also we're doing some child care renovations, but if we can get DeLand, Ormond on their feet. Ormond right now, actually, and I'll be perfectly transparent. Right now, Port Orange is in the red, the operation. What's carrying them right now is Ormond and Holly Hill. And Holly Hill, interesting one, I introduced a $10 membership in Holly Hill, and that's been a big success in that community. So going down, give you an idea what we're talking about. If you look on your bottom left, that's actually a spin room that I built and designed in Victoria, Texas. One of the associates that came from the YMCA. That's what I would install pretty much Auburn-wise. And in Port Orange, in essence, I would put it in Racquetball Court 4. Because that court never gets used right now, and we're paying lease on that court. The top right-hand corner is what the heart rate monitors would look like in the rooms. So you'd have that on the big television screen in the group exercise rooms. You'd have it in the spin room again, so you could monitor it. And then the bottom right gives you an idea of the spin room, how the projector screen would actually have the bicycles, and you could see yourself and race against other people in the class. And then they have different views and terrains, and it's a pretty neat company called Spivvy is the one who does that, and I've already priced that equipment out. So I talked about some of the moving forward, Ormond and DeLand, what we're going to be doing at those locations. This is the chart you got from the city, and you'll see currently there's $522,000 in the fund balance. Top right-hand part are the projects that when we walked through with the city, they said, hey, here are some things in the Port Orange Y that need to be redone. Now, fortunately, and I'll give big kudos and credit to the city staff, what I would consider all of the capital items, and again, I've been actually building YMCAs for about 15 years. All the capital items at that facility have been taken care of within the last 10 years, if I'm correct. Roof, AC units, pool being resurfaced, parking lot being done. Many of the capital items that you would put funds away have been taken care of, the major ones. What I have on here, what's listed on here, I think are many what I would call cosmetic items. Not necessary for our operation, but would be very nice to have, except for the first one, the vinyl flooring needs to be done in the child care room. But other than that, the rest of them, when you look at how this dips, could be moved around. I'll tell you right now, the two swim team locker rooms at $338,000, the most expensive item, that has very little ROI for the YMCA. Right now, those locker rooms are only used during swim meets or kids for going out to the pool to change. They're sufficient, and if these items need to be moved around, they could to handle the cash flow or handle any other things. So, example, if we needed to move that back or move another item up, there's that kind of in my opinion. Now, the city may have a different opinion, but in my opinion, that's a possibility. In the bottom right-hand side, and I apologize, I forgot about the half off in December. I didn't even remember that. So that's not on here, but we can put it on there. But that gives you an idea of the payback. So the total amount is $152,000, 20% a year. Now, my goal, honestly, is I don't even want to have to get to this point next year. I would love to get back to an operation that we go to a full payment. I don't want to have to be paying back years down the road. But if we do, this is the plan on how we would pay the money back. So little things about the Port Orange Y. This is again only the Port Orange Y. You can see a breakdown. We have 1,300 memberships under the age of 20, 2,200 adults, and then 55 seniors are 2,700. So you can see that our biggest segment right there are the senior populations. Now this trend, some YMCAs, different, like Edgewater is more adults and more blue collar area, but for this area, we have a large portion of seniors that use the Port Orange YMCA. In particular, the pool is a very popular item for them. Financial assistance, again, the YMCA, we give back. So 2019, we gave back $64,000, and these are for people who could not afford swim lessons, could not afford youth sports, after school, summer camp. Summer camp and after school make up the lion's share of that, to be honest with you. That's where we actually end up giving away most, or subsidizing most of the participants in those programs. And no one's ever turned away from the YMCA for the inability to pay. So example, if I have a senior says, okay, I can't afford the $20, we'll say, okay, we'll have a conversation, what can you afford? Maybe $5 a month, but we will never turn anybody away for inability to pay. Some of the programs we have going on there, wellness in the community, Live Strong Cancer Survivor Program, very popular, very strong at that location. We have a stroke wellness program in conjunction with Brooks Rehab. So when they get done with Brooks Rehab, they come right next door and they're at the YMCA. Adaptive yoga class has been popular, and also a Parkinson class where it just gets them into the Y and they're doing activities, not necessarily wellness activities, but just different activities to keep them engaged. Some of the other community programs, I want to note that COVID, so when everyone was shut down over COVID, the YMCA was the only child care that stayed open. Our staff volunteered, and I'm very proud of them. I said no one's required to work, and whoever wants to work, you know, it's on a volunteer basis, and they stepped up. We had, at Port Orange alone, we had 48 kids every day at the YMCA, and we had contracts with Advent Health Hospital, with Halifax. We had Sheriff's Office. We had talked with them to get their kids. City employees from all over the county. Countywide, we had over 200 kids at our YMCA's, all the locations. Just in Port Orange, we had 48 while COVID, with the shutdown was going on. Swim lessons, 726 kids went through the YMCA last year in swim lessons. We have 70 kids in our beginner swim league and 101 in our hydro. That is one of our growing teams. Now, so youth sports has kind of gone flat. For us, swimming has gone up. So even during COVID, we have acquired kids for our swim program. When we started this team last year, we had 68 kids. Now we have 101. After school care, 197 participants. Summer camp 2 and 2. Youth sports, 950. And of course, we have the Spruce Creek High School using our pool for their home meets and also for practices. Just I want to give you a rundown because it's been commented that our rent is subsidized, which may be the case for a membership. But when you dig down the numbers and you look, the building is 43,000 square feet. 14,600, again, I had to estimate some hallways and some bathrooms in these numbers, but 14,600 approximately is our child care, and that's including the kids zone where you drop a 3-year-old off while you go work out into that square footage. So our 2020 net is about 225, but after the lease payment, it goes to 147 for that area. When you look at child care and youth sports, we lease 14,754 square feet for that area. Our lease cost is $78,000 a year, but our revenue is $75,000 for this year. So it's about a break even. We're not making money on those items. Racquetball, there's a reason. When I was a kid, I used to go to this racquetball place on, what was it, Clyde Morris, I think it was. Yeah, is that there anymore? No. Yeah. That thing closed down by the time I was 14 years old, I think. All right. There's a reason why there's no racquetball centers. It doesn't make money. It's a dying sport, but we have 4 of them. And we're paying a lease payment on that. We're losing about $20,000 a year on that. Aquatics is a big one. We have Olympic-sized pool. In fact, we were just talking today about trying to heat that thing for tonight. But that's $161,000 operating loss we have on that pool. And then when you throw on the lease we pay, it's a $200,000 operating loss. So when you add that up, we're going to lose about $70,000 in operations in 2020. So yeah, we're making money on the fitness part, and we may be paying a little bit low lease amount, but we're losing money on the other parts. So, you know, I mean, it's your call. You say that we're getting a deal on it, and yeah, I think we are probably paying less. I think market rate may be $7 a square foot, $8 a square foot, but we're doing a lot of stuff that no one else will do, and we're providing services that no one else provides, and that's what the YMCA does in the community. So I think, and I'm certain that we'll get through this, and I think when COVID gets done, I was having a conversation, I think people they're yearning to get back into the social element. When COVID's done, we'll have a lot of seniors coming back to the Y because they missed that social interaction. We'll have a lot of adults and families coming back to the Y because they missed our social interactions. And we'll be here. I think this 18th month option is premature completely. The main problem that we have operating is a third party. And it's a problem we created ourselves, to be honest with you. And it's a problem that I sit on the committee of all the Ys in state, and we're addressing this right now. We actually are looking at doing a direct pay with Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield, where we cut out the middleman. And we're negotiating so far. 2 of our 5 contracts have agreed to go to the full amount on the first pay. It's just a matter of getting to the other ones. We get the third party issues settled. I think that settles any financial doubts in the future for the YMCA. But again, it's a situation, honestly, that we create ourselves. Third party works on a small level when you have maybe 10% of your membership base, 20 max. But when you get to 68%, you are in a negative cash flow situation. So that's my presentation. Any questions?
Chris, on the rent agreement that you're proposing, 50% rent in 21 and then the payback 22 through 26 to make us whole, is that a level term? Those are level term payments? Okay. Any other questions for Chris before we hear from the public?
What happens if you can't make the payments and pay them back?
I think we can, but I don't know, Tom, if you want to answer that question.
It's no different than the lease currently is. We're just restructuring the payments. And so you would have the same recourse, the same opportunities to collect on this as you do under the current lease. We think that this is a well thought out plan, but for COVID, we would be here before you now. And so we've looked at different options. As you can hear from Chris's talking, we've turned over every stone possible to try to do this. The request before you is based upon what we need to continue our operation. And we're not just asking for what we can get. This is what we need.
If I'm 100% sure we can pay it back, I am pretty certain we won't even need it all, but it's just in case. But worst case scenario, let's say worst case, the YMCA does have assets that we can liquidate to make sure that the city is whole on what we owe you.
Can you use those assets to securitize this?
To secure this? No, I cannot. Not to secure this.
No, we have leveraged assets that we have available to us. You can't solve a cash flow problem by borrowing short term. You can't borrow short term and pay back short term. It zeroes out on your cash flow. This is what we need to kind of push it out over time. And we're confident that we can make these payments to you. There are no guarantees. There are no guarantees with the lease, but we feel like there is. We are going to look at every opportunity, and we have received considerations from other municipalities on trying to address this as well.
And if we have to, I know we have $522,000 in that reserve, maintenance reserve. If we have to postpone projects or not do projects that does not have a direct ROI consequence, like an AC unit, we have to replace. But a lot of the stuff on here, again, in my opinion, is cosmetic. If we don't have to do those things, it's not, in my opinion, required for us to stay open and serve the community.
You're spending money on swim team locker rooms and renovations with very big dollars and small ROI. That's not something that I would want to invest in.
I agree. Some of these items, I think, again, are necessary. The flooring in the locker room is old VCT flooring, and it's cracked from expansion joints. And it's and if you know anything about those type of tiles, they can be waxed, and then the wax sometimes gets dirty, and it's impossible to make it look clean. And it's just the default for that type of flooring problems you have. So many times at other parts of the other branches, we've gone over that flooring with the LVT vinyl, and it's amazing how much people think the place looks so much cleaner. And yeah, all you've done is replace the flooring. But anyway, like many of the things, LED lights, yeah, they would save on electricity. And new grid, the grid's 2x4, going with 2x2 would look better. But again, what's the ROI you're going to get on some of this stuff? And is it the right time to do those projects when you're in this type of financial situation?
Chase, you got anything? Questions or comments?
Yeah, I've looked at the numbers a lot. Had a great conversation with you, Chris. I've discussed a lot of this with Alan. I'm okay with where we're at because, I do see a significant amount in the fund balance. I agree that I don't think all those things that in there that need to be done, but I'd certainly be willing to listen to staff's recommendation and weigh the options. But I don't see a scenario where we would be in the negative. I'm looking at this as from a landlord-tenant situation where there's significant dollars in the fund balance to basically give yourself a loan here to get you through a difficult time. And I see this negative option in 2024. I don't personally believe it would get there because I think we'd have a tenant in there by at some point bringing revenue in. I wonder if council would be more. I don't know how the rest of council feels, but would you be open to an option, say, 6 months and reviewing it then? So, because we're making a decision based on how we feel your business model is going to do. So, instead of committing ourselves to 12 months, would council be open, if necessary, to a commitment of 6 months, reevaluate it, and extend it outward? Because at 6 months at a 50% rate, that's a $57,000 loan, if you will. And then we can reevaluate how the business model is going at that point, and then look to further extend that. Is there an issue with that? I don't know what council.
I think that's a good alternative. I think that's wise on everyone's part. Go ahead.
Yeah, I might add, it's not a loan, it's a deferment.
I mean, I get that, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and just
for lack of a better
because it is
term.
very different. It's COVID, with everything that we have relief coming from the government, rental referrals are a recommended thing. If we could get approval of the plan and report back to you periodically, we need to make long-term decisions here.
That was actually something I talked to
And-
Chris about, is I wanted you to come before us quarterly
Yeah.
and let us know how you do.
Absolutely. We're looking for suggestions, we'll give you that feedback, but if we can have the implicit understanding that, sans anything going wrong, we're heading in the other direction, we don't know what the future holds. We thought, 2020 was gonna be a normal year, right? So that would be a better mindset for us. On the Finance Committee, we're looking at annual budgets and we're looking at capital expenditures way on out there.
Yeah.
That would help us.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. I don't see this as a loan forgiveness. It is a deferment, and I recognize that, and that's frankly the only reason why I'm interested and willing to go forward. So I'd like to hear what the rest of council thinks, and if the 12 months is an option, or if a 6-month option is there, then I'll look to go forward.
So that's Scott. Marilyn?
Yeah, I appreciate your sharing your business plan with us. What concerns me is that it doesn't seem there's been an agreement put forth between the Y and the city that addresses 2 key points that I'd like you to address. First of all, you've indicated, Chris, that you have a goal to actually be on track by the end of 2021. So I'm wondering why your plan, there's been no discussion of a acceleration clause to repay us and get back to the original amount. And then second, a default clause in case you don't hit your goals within 6-8 months. Those are the 2 things that concern me. It seems to me that your ask is huge, and yet you've never offered us anything to accelerate, which is what you say your goal is, or default, which protects us. And I need both of those, and I think they're critical, and I want to hear from you because that's going to affect my decision tonight.
Affecting me or him?
Well, I don't care,
Either
whichever
one of you.
one of you, but
Which one of you's got the answer?
If the Y has not looked at those 2 things, I mean, those are
I'll take the second one
medium.
All right,
Okay.
I'll take the first one. So the accelerate, yes, I would be more than happy to put something in there saying if we get to a certain position that we can pay back sooner if we get there, or if we do not need the funds. So let's say we get to April and there's some type of PPP relief, or again, with the COVID thing, we don't have a crystal ball. I don't think nobody does. I mean, what you're asking for, payback early kind of requires that a little bit. I'm just trying to, I am more than happy to pay it back early if we are able to, but I can't guarantee that because I don't know what the future entails. I don't know what the vaccine, what's the rollout for that will be, or when, or post vaccine, what's going to look like. I can't guarantee that, but I would be more than happy to pay back any debt I have faster if I'm able to do it. And I would be more happy to do with the city. And the second part would be for him.
Well, I was actually going to address that part as well. This is an agreement that we're proffering here. So if we don't meet the terms on the agreement and pay you back in those annual payments as we've agreed to, that is the default, that is an acceleration, there are remedies to you, we can put that in the document. So I would hope that if there are other opportunities, let's say the PPP comes through and we can do things, we want to improve the why. And we would like the business people that are involved there to have an opportunity to deploy those resources to where they can best serve the community. That's what we're really trying to do. We've got to make long-term decisions. We have to have long-term solutions. We're changing the pricing model for people that are using it. We're competing against competitors that we never even saw 7 or 8 years ago. And I've been involved with the Y for 20 years. So we're having to address our pricing, the changing of the community, the way it operates. So we need your help for a long-term solution. If we default, there should be acceleration opportunities. We'll address that in the agreement and go from there. I think that Commissioner Ford, did I address the point as you asked?
Well, you've agreed, but I certainly, you've spent so much time looking at your business model. I would like you to plug in some numbers as to times when, what the acceleration would mean if you can hit that mark at 8 months into the next year. And I'd like the default provision, quite honestly, to be exercised well before 18 months. If you're not hitting your mark in 8 months, I want to start down the road of that cancellation. You're in default, and we then move to cancellation. I don't know, maybe I'm not saying that right,
Yeah, I just
Mr.
wanted to-
Attorney.
Matt, I was
Yeah, I
gonna
just
say,
wanted
you
to-
might wanna give us some,
Yeah, I want to speak to the current default provision, which we haven't discussed, at least, I don't think, Alan, about changing the current default provision, which is actually a pretty good one for the city. Basically, it's 5 days of a late rental payment. So mostly discussion has been about modifying what that payment looks like over the rest of this term, which takes you out to, I think it's the end of 27. So in the event of a default for rent payment specifically, the city has the right to basically call the lease terminated, and the YMCA is then on the hook for all rental payments through the end of that term. Now, we'll have an obligation to mitigate, obviously, and we'll likely be able to do that before 2027. I'd hope we're able to do that. But that's the liability on the YMCA side, is that they miss that payment. There is no obligation for the city to continue to extend, to wait 18 months. The 18-month thing is actually just that's a bilateral out for either party. At any point, the city can
It's
say,
an opt-out, which is different from,
without cause, so for any reason, it's a termination for convenience. If they or the city decide at any point during this term that takes you to 27 that, hey, we just want to be out of it, we got to notify the other party for 18 months in advance, and that's it. It's just a notice. But I'd say that the current default provision is a good one for the city. So I wouldn't recommend changing that.
Okay,
that's good to know.
thank you.
And if you put term covenants in there, current ratio or something like that, and we don't meet that, we have volunteers, we have citizens of the community that write a check to cover a payment like this to keep the Y moving. So when we start getting technical and looking at ratios and things like that, we're really trying to be mission driven here. We're trying to serve the community, and we have some great citizens out there that do step forward when there's specifically identified need. So we need that flexibility to solve our problem, not put a Band-Aid on it.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Yes. On
Drew?
your changes to membership, see, January 1st, 2021, I guess these prices would be lower than you're currently charging, but I'm confused. Post-COVID basic membership, 10 to 15 price not set yet, so you're gonna reduce, once people start coming back, you're lowering the rates.
Well, here's what so the change on the first is not a rate change, that's our current rates.
Okay.
What is changing, what you can use for that rate. So right now, if you, let's say you get a basic membership, it includes the pool, lap swim.
Yeah.
Come 2021, you come to the YMCA, a basic membership will not include the pool for lap swim.
Okay.
So the post-COVID is a long-term plan where we, once our cash flow stabilizes, we would lower the basic rate, but increase the plus membership. So it would almost offset from a cash flow standpoint, but right now I'm not in a position to do that. I have to wait till some of our revenue increases. So that's why it says, and again,
but what
and
I'm
it
saying
says
is
the
that
rate is not set because we have not determined what that will be.
Okay.
It's just a range that we're looking at. So that's a plan.
But if
going
they're
forward.
paying $35 a month now,
Correct.
how many do you expect to lose when you move it to $45 a
we
month
do
or
not.
$40 a month?
We do not, because one, we plan to increase some of the amenities, but two, I did a study of all the YMCA's in Florida, and our YMCA is the lowest of every YMCA in the state when it comes to our membership of using the entire facility. So I think there's room there because we have amenities that, you know, it also costs more to run. And it's about time, and I talk to staff, that we have been, in essence, subsidizing people who use the pool for decades. People who use a pool now need to start carrying more of the weight of the cost to use items that have a higher overhead for us, and that's what that addresses.
So I mean, I don't mean to sound, but you're hoping that you don't lose any members.
No, I'm sure we will.
If you lose 3%, then your numbers are different, obviously. If you lose 2%, your revenue if you lose 15%.
It's potential cannibalization, that's exactly right. But we're trying to meet the competition, increase the aggregate membership, go to more of a use fee structure. And we have, as Chris mentioned, is it 500 that are
On hold,
on
yeah.
hold. So, you know, they may not come back at that pricing structure. We want to bring them back quickly.
Yeah.
So it
Or
is,
half
that's
of them
another
may come
thing.
back.
The reason we have trouble with ratios is, you know, we're going to have to try some things and see what works. We tried the pricing model in the Holly Hill, and it's
Yeah,
been well received.
And in
Going
Southeast
to a
also.
24/7 concept,
Yeah.
you know, to better serve the community.
And then, the same question on the third-party units. So it looks like Port Orange Y has about 64% third-party members,
I believe so, yes,
okay?
currently.
And at 20% usage,
Correct.
pre-COVID revenue is 270,000. Current revenue is 119. So when you go to third-party contracts being reimbursed, it's per use. So the more, if somebody comes 10 times, then you're reimbursed more. If if they don't use it, they're not using the facility, and Florida Healthcare isn't paying anything.
And Florida Healthcare is trying to drive them to use it for the obvious benefits.
Yeah,
of
for
wellness.
health benefits. Okay, so when you move to a 40 to 45 reimbursement, Florida Healthcare is not going to do that any longer. It's going to be on the person. So do the numbers estimate any loss of, because certainly, if they're not using it now, if they have to pay, that's not going to happen. They're going to not.
Right, so that's for the pool part. So for your basic membership, it will stay free. So for you to come work out in the fitness center, that is still part of the basic membership for Florida Healthcare.
Yeah.
So if you, Silver Sneakers, Florida Healthcare, Optum, Silver and Fit, Volusia Health Network, all those still get to use the gym. The gym part of it, the wellness part of it is still part of the free use for the member. It's only the individuals who are using items that have a higher overhead for us to operate.
The bikes, the pool.
They're going to need to pay extra.
But do you account for that you may lose some of those members?
We may, and it depends, and we did take that into account. Certain areas will lose some will not. Example, pool usage in Ormond is a driver for that. There's no other pools in that area.
Yeah.
We don't think we'll have loss. We may have loss in Group X because they could go to a competitor that's two blocks away that offers group exercise. The land, in essence, there is no one else that offers group exercise. So for those individuals, we don't see a loss. So it depends on what the competition, and I've analyzed that in the different areas. I've done a pro-con of the different branches to see where, if we go to this, what branches would utilize, what branches might get hurt. I really think that Ormond and Port Orange are the two branches that will actually gain the most from this new policy financially.
Do you lease this
Because of
space
the pool.
at all locations? Are there any locations owned, or is it all leased?
We own the Four Towns branch and the land and the soccer fields. We own Camp Winona.
Okay.
We have a low lease in Edgewater, Holly Hill. I wouldn't call it a lease, it's an agreement, we're there. And I'm missing one. Oh, the land, we have a low lease. We
Okay.
only lease the land at
Lease
that
the land.
location.
Renegotiated recently.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
Daytona went away years ago.
Daytona sold
That-
off. So we actually renegotiated, or we worked with the city of DeLand and the city of Edgewater, and they both have given us either a deferment of an entire year, or they've actually reduced
Yeah.
the land.
And they're a lot smaller facilities, if I'm,
No, the land's actually bigger than Port Orange. The land's about 54,000 square feet.
okay.
It's a very large facility.
Edgewater's the smaller facility.
Edgewater's 38, probably 35,000. They recently expanded about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So they've added on. So actually, the Edgewater facility is a pretty good sized facility for that community.
Yeah. Membership-wise, though, is Port Orange your largest
Yes,
membership?
currently right now, member, and it's always been that way. It's usually been Port Orange, the land have been neck and neck in membership.
Okay.
Ormond kind of coming up third.
Do you account for maybe, you would hope that all the seniors would come back, but is there, I mean, did you have a percentage or projection of some that just won't, they won't want to take that risk, or they won't want to take a vaccine, or whatever? Is there, or are you
Actually,
counting on them all coming back?
No, we're not counting all coming back. Nationwide, there's a study that came out, and it's not only seniors, but in general, that they predict 15 to 20% of the people nationwide will not go back to their fitness center because they've already have a routine at their house. They've already started walking around. They've already done walks around the block with their groups, or with their what they call their COVID cliques. So, or they have the Peloton at their house, or the Bowflex, or what have you. So that is taken to account, and that's for everybody in the wellness industry.
Okay.
We're just trying to stay in contact with those numbers and be flexible and pivot when we see something change there.
Thank you.
Welcome.
My concern, of course, we talked extensively. I know it comes down to membership. And the reason why I asked you to come back, if we do this and give us quarterly updates, is it's not just about your membership numbers, but those third-party arrangements, because putting those kind of things on the table create a measure of uncertainty. So I do want council to know that we discussed that, and Chris certainly agreed to come and update us, and that would be one of the things that you talk about.
It is a partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, gentlemen, I'm going to open this
Mayor.
up to the public.
Stan has
Do I
it.
get comments too?
Yeah.
You started.
No, I
No,
didn't.
he didn't. No, you
He
started.
Did I
had
start?
he had a
My
question.
comment-
That was so
My
gosh
comments were
darn
so
long
mo-
ago, I thought you started
My
it.
comments were so moving, they've stuck with you forever now.
That's it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Scott.
That's okay.
My apologies.
Aside from the fact of the mayor and the vice mayor being re-sworn in tonight, this is the one agenda item, honestly, on the agenda that has caused some lost sleep and a lot of mental stress thinking this through and trying to figure out what's best for the community. First, let me say that I appreciate what you guys both have in front of you, because it's a Herculean task. Really do appreciate it. And the Y has been a valued member of our city for a really long time. I believe going on close to 35 years, maybe a little over 35 years. And I'm going to say some things here that are just pretty much just thought from off the top of the head, and I can appreciate all the comments that everybody on the dais has had. I'm thankful that I can tell that everybody has probably lost a little bit of sleep over this decision and anguished a little bit on this one, and this is this is certainly deserving of that. The facility you were talking about earlier was Continental Health and Fitness.
Oh, the one over there?
Yeah, on Clydemore. So 35 years ago, there were basically two options in our city if you wanted a fitness facility to go to. And there was Continental Health and Fitness, which had the racquetball courts, and then there was the Y. And sadly, the Y put Continental Fitness out of business because they couldn't compete. Where the rates were better, bigger facility, more to offer, you had the pool, you had all those kind of things. And Continental didn't last much after the after 1991, 92, and it sat there as an eyesore forever. So today what we have in our city is we've got roughly 15 fitness facilities, not including the Y, of some kind. And you're right, trends are changing. You've got fitness facilities that are inside warehouses now, and you've got specialized facilities, and you've got spin facilities, you've got national brands, you've got more wanting to come and things like that. We've also got 12 child care facilities right now in the city of Port Orange, not counting the public schools that offer some after school child care stuff. The reason I bring that up is that, and Chase actually said it, and really it sticks to my mind, is I think that we need to really consider what is our role as the elected body here for this discussion, and how do we tie into the YMCA, because things have changed over 35 years. The community has changed. Everything has to adapt and change and so forth and so on, and the Y is certainly no different, and so is the city. And Chase mentioned the landlord-tenant kind of a role. I actually agree, and I think that is the role that the elected body really should be taking with this. And as much as I appreciate talking about what the future plan is and the model and things like that, but the last thing I want to do is get into endorsing your business plan. And I don't want to evaluate it, honestly, because that's not our role. It's not a responsibility that we are trusted upon by the taxpayers that vote to put us here to do that, right? So our role is to watch out for the taxpayers' dollars and their interest. And in this relationship, that landlord-tenant, those taxpayers, they're the landlords, not really us, right? So I kind of feel like in my mind, that's how I think the elected body should really be looking at that. So a couple of comments. One of the things that is unique to this particular situation, and I served on the YMCA advisory board for a little while, and while COVID has certainly created some unusual and unforeseen issues, I would offer and argue that the plan has had a lot of challenges for many years that didn't creep up on us today, and on the Y. The other thing that I've always wrestled with a little bit when I'm looking at this from this seat is that we think Port Orange YMCA. The model is Volusia Flagler YMCA, and I know from my past experience that sometimes this Y's in the red and sometimes this one's in the black, and those things can change, and you pull from here and you take from there and things like that. And Port Orange has done, in my opinion, the city has done an amazing job. We call it maybe subsidizing the Y, maybe for lack of a better term, but supporting. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago we were spending 6 figures to purchase brand new equipment for the Y, right? When other YMCAs, we come to find out, were on the hook themselves. So, Port Orange has done things over the years, and I know every Y is unique into some regard, but what that creates is a model in a business perspective for the YMCA, and particularly for you guys, where you got to figure out, okay, if we pull from what this Y is generating and give it to where this Y needs, you're getting into a much bigger and broader thing, and that's where I think our role needs to go back down to the landlord-tenant role. Really, honestly, I mean, I love the YMCA. I'm a fan of what the YMCA does for the community, but I need to see the YMCA stand on its own and resolve whatever those issues are moving forward into the future. And you're right, things are changing, and they've got to be flexible. They've got to adapt. I think the city has always offered a very, very, very fair agreement. I'm concerned about creating, now that we have all these other things, as our city has grown and changed over 35 years, when we start making decisions now, are we giving the YMCA, I don't mean this to come across wrong, it's probably not going to sound like I mean it in my head, but are we giving the YMCA as a fitness facility an unfair advantage that the businesses in the community, the 15 facilities that offer fitness stuff and the 12 child care facilities, are we putting them now at a greater disadvantage, and is that the right thing to do, and so forth? I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. These are just some things that have been in my mind that have been weighing heavily on me, so I wanted to speak to those. Again, I just think that in our role, I'm all for making sure we're doing a fair agreement with the YMCA, but I really don't want to get into the role of evaluating your business plan. Those slides look great, Chris. I get it. Things are changing. I'm sure I'm sure a cool state-of-the-art spin room is going to be very attractive. But like with a lot of things that we see in the fitness industry is, I don't know, I'm preaching to the choir here, some of those trends rise and fall very quickly. So while you can convert a racquetball room today, because that trend has died out, the spin cycling thing is trending. I get that. It's a huge trend right now, actually. But where will that be in 5 years? And then how does that sit into a business plan? Again, point of discussion, great. Not something I think the elected body should really weigh too heavy in an endorsing kind of a mindset or an evaluation mindset. Maryland's points are extremely well taken. I don't think any of us take this lightly. We have seen in the history of our city, not all that long ago, we have paid dearly for making decisions to defer things. And it wasn't all that long ago we were deferring capital improvement needs on roadways and sidewalks and things like that, only to come years in a very short amount of time and realize that was almost catastrophic. It was huge mistakes, huge. So I look at that list and I look at some things in swim locker rooms, to the mayor's point. Those are things you look at and you go, well, maybe we can do with those. Well, I maybe so, maybe not, because as trends change, if you don't have those amenities and those things, then your value in that facility is going to start to go down. So anyway, I don't mean to sound like rambling. Those are some things that have been on my mind, and I wanted to just comment for the benefit of the dais more so than the Y himself. But I really do hope that whatever the future holds, that the business model will be solid, and that that the YMCA will sustain this and prosper very well, because you do provide some great services. And I get that it's a challenge, just like the businesses in the Port Orange area are having to adapt. They're facing those challenges, and some are doing quite well, some are really struggling, and I get that. So I can appreciate the effort that's got to be put behind this.
Before I hear from the public, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'll just, in light of, just responded to Scott's, very well articulated, Scott, and that's, you said, are we giving an unfair advantage? And that's the exact thought that has been on my mind, and the hardest thing for me to grasp around. And just for public purposes and sharing comments, I came to the realization that I don't think we were. I think in that landlord role, I think it's right in line with what landlords all across the country are doing in giving deferments. Some are giving forgiveness. I'm not advocating that, but I think we're right along the line with what is taking place right now, given the times. And most important for me was that the general fund would not be impacted by this at all. So I would be willing to make a motion at some point after we hear from the public, at least for a 6-month evaluation time period. So we can come back to that, but just wanted to speak to that because that was a good comment, Scott, and I just wanted to say that very thing has been on my mind as well.
Anything else from us before we hear from the public? I know we have at least one person here who wants to speak to it. Robert? Thank you, gentlemen.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. I come to this from the position that I don't believe that the city should be a landlord at all. But if the city is going to be a landlord, the city should be getting a market rate of return on their investment. I also believe that if the city is not getting the market rate of return, the city is subsidizing a religious organization which is inappropriate. The current situation seems to me to offer the city a unique opportunity to extract ourselves from this arrangement. So I suggest that the city not grant the YMCA any reduction in their rent. The Y could try to obtain funding through the CARES Act as a pandemic affected business. If the YMCA still cannot meet their financial obligations to the city, then the city should invoke the termination terms of the contract and reclaim the facility. The city could then turn the operation over to Parks and Recreation for the benefit of all the citizens of Port Orange. And I feel that the Parks and Recreation would do an outstanding job for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else care to speak to the item? No one else? Okay, back to us. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion for a 6-month, 50% reduction to be reevaluated according to the numbers of that time. If it please to also include, I agree with Marilyn, to also include some language discussing an acceleration payment option, or at least some sort of a forecast. Not sure how to word that, but I agreed with those comments.
We have level term payments already
Mayor?
over the course of that.
I think maybe rather than a motion just for this one, if you could give us kind of a general consensus of what, and if it's 6 months, we can put in some acceleration, you know, if they hit certain marks, but you got to give us a general consensus of where you want to go. We'll bring back, it'll have to be in the form of a lease amendment, so we can bring that back to you at the December 15th meeting.
So we're looking at, council, Chase, you wanted to do a 6-month time period?
I'd like a 6-month because I think by then we'll at least have, I don't want to commit to 12 months. I think by then we can see where they're going, and if they're not reaching anywhere near, then, you know, all bets are off at that point.
Yeah, and of course, Chris has already agreed to come visit us after 3 to let us know if they're on track with the 6 or not.
So I think there's enough funding in the fund balance, in their fund balance right now to accommodate that.
Council, is that what we want to do?
No.
No.
What do you want to do?
I'm thinking.
What we're doing is giving staff direction to bring something back that we can vote on.
Go ahead, Scott.
I'm good with leaving the agreement the way it is right now. I don't think that there is a need for us to do this. I think that the Y could put together a business model. They're a massive organization, and I think they have a very fair lease agreement that the taxpayers provide, and I think they can figure it out within that agreement, and I hope they can.
So you want to maintain the status quo?
Yes.
Drew, what's your
Option one.
suggestion?
Second.
You want to maintain the status quo? Chase, you're talking 6 months.
I
Marilyn?
go for 6 months, 50% reduction.
I think that 6 months would be adequate myself. So I would say that on the balance,
Yep.
you have direction. Okay. And then we'll bring that back for us on the 15th because you don't mess around.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
And Mayor, I think I heard you also say you'd like YMCA to come back at the 3-month interval to provide us an update.
You
at
don't
that
have
point,
to
or-
put that in the agreement.
Okay.
Because I don't want it being 3 weeks and a week, plus 7 days, or 3 weeks and a day. We've got Chris
He'll
on
come.
record saying he'll do that.
All right.
That's good enough for me. He's agreed, he said it on record, that's good enough for me. Additional items, city attorney?
None tonight, sir. Actually, take that back. I do have one, and that's just to let you know that we are ready to move forward with the first of 3 meetings that will be geared towards this panhandling ordinance. That first meeting, I request that we do a special meeting next Tuesday, the 8th, and that would begin at 6:30 p.m. if that'd be acceptable to council.
Council, are we good with that?
Next Tuesday, right here.
Yes, sir.
I can do that?
Special meeting, it is so
I'll put it
ordered.
in my phone right now.
Okay,
What time?
6:30?
Here, 6:45.
All right, thank you, that's all.
Okay. City manager?
Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, that's not Jake's voice.
Update. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the RFP search for the city manager search. Obviously, we put it out a little over a week and a half ago. It closes on December 10th. We plan on bringing the list of who has applied to council that are responsible and responsive for a short listing on December 15th. And then going from there, I can tell you that it's funny because before this meeting, I did receive an email from purchasing going over to some departments because some people are starting to send in questions, so we know people are pulling it off the system. It was after the daytime when I thought to update you, so I don't know how many people have pulled it off the system, but I can easily get that and provide that via email just so you kind of know who's looking at it so far, or how many. And then we'll bring those back to the 15th for a short list.
Can you put that information in the weekly?
Yeah, if I have additional information, I can definitely put it in the weekly. Let's see. Update on transport. There was a request for a couple of weeks ago for update on transport. We didn't obviously have anything on today. We don't have anything on the December 15th. The next meeting is not till the middle of January. We've already passed the deadline to get something on the agenda for the 15th. That doesn't mean we can't bring it, but we'd kind of have to rush to get it all set since the agenda is kind of already on its way out. Is there any request to have it on December versus January?
I asked for this back in November for either the first or the second meeting in December. So I saw the chief here tonight. I expected him to do it, but so you're saying we can't do it the 15th?
No, I'm not saying we can't. We can throw it in there. The agenda's pretty much already been set. We can throw it in there, but just if you want it, we'll throw it in there.
Nod your head this way.
Yes, 15th.
We'll get it on the 15th. Mayor, I believe you had one additional comment.
Yeah, Alan, thank you. Like I said, it's interesting hearing a different voice after 5 years from that end of the dais. And I think that since that it is his last meeting, we need to hear Jake Johansson's voice one more time. Sir, if you'd come up to the podium, I do have something I'd like to read to you.
He's not going to be here on the 9th or the 8th?
Well, you know, it could be.
Possibly not, ma'am.
Oh.
I'd like to make a resignation.
Resignation.
Me too. Resignation presentation. I'd like to make a presentation in recognition of Michael Jake Johansson for outstanding performance and lasting contribution as a Port Orange City manager from 2015 through 2020. I'd like to recognize you with a certificate of appreciation and give you the thanks of myself, this council, and a grateful city. And with that, your words.
My words. It's been I wasn't ready for
Careful.
this. Where's the Kleenex? Thank you, Mayor. It's been an honor to serve the city. I had planned on doing it much longer than this, obviously, and I believe I promised that a couple of years ago. But you know, there's some colliding things that are happening in this world that forced me to redirect my attention. I got to tell you, it's tough. This has been virtually the same council for 5 years, and it's been a pleasure working with and for you all. You know, I think the mayor kind of hinted on it, I think we intended to do a lot more, but time flew pretty quick, so I think there's more time to do that for you all. It's just that I won't be there leading the charge from the staff's perspective. I do believe we've accomplished a lot, some of which was accomplished before I got here, but kind of wrapped up when I was here. We've made a lot of strides in flooding, especially in District 1. There's a lot more to do. There's a lot of people still flooding, but we're starting to get ahead of it. Organizationally, I think we've become more professional. I have a staff of 8 or 9 primary department heads and special assistants and whatnot that are truly working together as a team. When I got here, it was a bunch of silos, a bunch of what can I get for me, folks. We have some great core values. I think day in and day out, we get more people that are subscribing to those core values. And for those that aren't, they're catching on pretty quick that if they're not part of our core values, then there's other places they can go with different core values. You'd appreciate that, right? We're not a good old boy network anymore. We do as we say and say as we do. We don't show favoritism. Some people don't appreciate that, but most do. And I think most know now that we are a fair city. We're a fair city up in community development. We don't move people's permits ahead because their name is somebody we know. I think Councilperson Ford, you're well aware of that. You had a permit that took some time. But we don't show favoritism. I think that's part of the integrity and part of the fabric of our staff now. I would like to thank the staff for going along with the ride, if you will. I know, not being a city manager, that I do things a little bit different because I'm not a city manager. I don't know what city managers do. I know what I do. 90% of the time we did that. Every once in a while, this fellow city manager would call me and go, "Oof, that's not the way you do it." And I'd be like, "Well, what I do wrong? Is it illegal? Do I owe the council?" And every once in a while, it was Matt covered me from being illegal, but every once in a while, I did have to say, "Well, I did something that's not
city manager do I need to
quite
call?
out of the ordinary." So, you know, we've had some successes, we've had some failures. We've had to say we were sorry. We've had to say we've done it wrong. We have taken pleasure when it's worked out right. We've celebrated weddings, funerals, births, deaths, you name it. We've done it all together. And I truly believe, there's 5 of them left here, 6 of them tonight, but I truly believe that by and large, we have come together in the past 5 years as a family. And as a family, we've directed our attention to you all, but more importantly, to our citizens. And I think that's the biggest thing. We're not here because of them, we're here for them. And I hope that continues on. Always room for improvement, and I can't wait to see that moving forward as a citizen. I plan on taking a break, but I don't plan on being a stranger. I might show up every once in a while with a thought or concern, but other than that, I'm going to let the staff do what they got to do, and I'm going to do what I got to do. But I'll go to lunch with a few in memory once in a while. Everybody always asks. I plan on staying here. We're going nowhere. I got a kid that's a freshman, and he's destined for the MLB. Just ask him. Okay. So he can't. We'll see how that goes. And
It's happened before.
And yeah, it's happened before. That's what scares me, Scott. So,
Just this year?
but I do have some regional issues that I've always had concern about that I'm going to keep on working on. So you'll probably see me at more regional events, but I plan on being as active as I can be while I'm taking care of the rest of me and my family. So I appreciate all the support you all have given me the past 5.5 years, and I will appreciate the future support you give me in my endeavors, because I know I'll need it eventually. So I appreciate it.
Comments, Scott?
I was just thinking in my mind, I was like, man, the guy took a job here in he got hammered with these storms, and you were probably thinking of all the things that, what am I going to do over the first 5 years as a city manager? If you'd have put, if you'd have put big name storms and natural disasters and bet on that, that'd have been pretty amazing. But yeah, and well, the one thing too I was thinking about today, Jake, is when you and I met. I don't know if you remember, but I kept trying to tell you, it's different here. Port Orange is different. Oh yeah, no, I moved around. I've lived all over the country. I know, but I've probably said it 50 times to you, Jake.
I do
It's
remember.
Different. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's different. And a little ways into it, I think when one day you and I were talking, you're right. It's a little different here, but your leadership has been fabulous. I've truly appreciated the opportunity and the honor to serve with you and work with you and your friendship. And I could say a bunch of great things about you, but instead I'm going to talk about your family and just tell you that truly one of the things I did not expect that Port Orange got, you want to talk about an ROI, is that we got a family who is truly committed to this community. And
Amen.
And in so many aspects,
Yeah.
whether it's your kids or if it's your wife or it's you guys individually or if it's the whole family.
Too many.
Yeah,
Too many
right.
occasionally.
But you guys have not only immersed yourself in the community, but in community service at every turn. And almost to the point where it's not just good enough for your family of 5 to be immersed, but you guys are magnetic, and you've encouraged that, and you've created a culture, and it's grown. And so I truly appreciate that. And that value has not been unnoticed, and so I hope you will pass that on to your family. And I know that's in the blood. You know, that doesn't come with a job title, and now the title's not there and the check's not coming, and all that stuff. I know that's not going to be the case, and that's what's amazing.
It'll get worse.
Yeah, it's going to get worse, right? So what'll be nice now is we'll probably be pestering you. Hey, listen, there's this need over here if you can get involved. But truly, I do appreciate the entire family, because it really is getting to watch it and see you guys and actually be close in the community to where you live. Well done, just very well done for the whole family. So
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Please
I
do.
think
I think Scott
Kristen.
loves Kristen just as much as he likes you.
I just wanted to make sure she wasn't going anywhere.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I think she might be watching a Duke basketball game
Yeah.
right now, so I'll share it with her when I
Got
get
it.
home.
Certainly, Jake, we appreciate you and everything you've done for the city. And Scott's right, I have to hit on the family thing. You raised 3 great young men. They're not boys anymore. They're young
No,
men.
definitely not.
You got a great wife, great support system, great family, and we benefited, from that. And I think in your service as city manager, we saw some of that military, your distinguished military career parlay over to this, but you did a really good job of you didn't always have to have that military attitude and everything, and you did a great job of.
I tried to get rid of it as hard as I could.
No, but you did. But
It didn't work.
It was needed sometimes, and sometimes it wasn't.
Right.
But we saw that the distinguished military career come out, and you did an excellent job for us. So that is appreciated. It's going to be big shoes to fill. Selfishly, I wish we could have had you longer, but I understand your reason for leaving and support it. And family is the key, and I got that. I want to give you one thing. When you and I first met, you handed me this card, shook my hand. It's well preserved. So I don't think you have any more of those. So I'm going to give you your business card back that you gave me on the first meeting for your memorabilia or whatever. You can put it, whatever you want to do with
I'll
it.
put
But
it.
it's
I'll put it right next to the hand-signed first agenda that I had that you gave me and said, "Keep this. You'll want it."
there you go.
So you're
So-
you're a person that keeps stuff like
Yeah,
this.
so
That's,
it's well preserved. So I wanted you to have that back.
Heaven knows what else he's got.
I mean, darn.
Appreciate you and your family and everything you did for this city
Thank
and
you,
this
Drew.
community.
Appreciate it.
Jace?
Well, if we're gonna giving gifts, I wish I had a pair of Crocs I could give
pair
you.
of Crocs.
But, I don't have any of those, or
I'm hoping Santa brings me a pair.
or a Polar Pop, because I still remember feeling bad for letting mine spill over there before I was elected.
I almost
watched
let
that
my
whole
water
thing.
spill tonight just as a tribute, but
I agree with all the comments that were said. I always say in conversation with folks regarding our city and our city manager that I always wish I could have taken credit for having a role in hiring you. You and I have had a lot of conversations, and I look forward to many more. I value your friendship. I appreciate. It's a grateful nation for your military service, and it's a grateful city here for your service here. And we talk about leadership a lot. And true leaders are marked by, in my opinion, two attributes at the end of their tenure. Number one is the organization better off than when you found it, and I think this absolutely is. And number two, how does that organization continue to thrive and improve in your absence? I certainly believe it will. You didn't lead with an iron fist. You surrounded yourself with quality leaders that don't need their hand held and are able to adapt. And that's been shown any time that you were in your absence, the city was just fine. And that's a good mark of a leader. You didn't lead with just personality where everything falls apart when you leave. And I always appreciated that as a quality leader. So I did have a message from Dwight Galt, who was noticeably absent in his chair. He did say, go Army and beat Navy. Whatever that means.
that's unfortunate for him, but
but he wanted me to pass his best.
That's
line.
awesome.
So congratulations on the next venture, because I'm sure no one's seen the last of you guys. But
everybody thinks they know what I'm going to do next. So
well, you're taking care of your family, and that's the most important, and I support that 100%. Always a phone call away.
great.
Well, I thought it was interesting, Chase said he wished he had taken credit for hiring you, because I can tell you, Bob Ford believes he has the credit or had the credit.
I believe that to be true. If you go back to that, meeting, by golly,
We should have replayed that.
I think
we didn't have the time.
He was right to look for somebody with different characteristics. After that, I know at times he was your ally, and other times he was your opponent when you were on the other side of things. But I think, all said, you have really, what I've witnessed personally firsthand now, is your leadership ability and what you've done in terms of building a good team of supervisors. I've certainly enjoyed our interactions. Like my husband, many times we've been allies, sometimes we've been opponents, but I think it's always been to the benefit of the city. I think you probably have another career in you.
One or two at least.
And I certainly wish you well and your family.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Let me know when you open the brewery.
Or that, right? So that's my fallback.
4 years ago, I had said something earlier about when I got sworn in as mayor. I had been on council, and I remember that day when we're going through the interviews, and Jake was at the top of our list, and Scott and I were concerned, and we debated with the rest of council about, we like him, but man, I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. And then I just remember Bob Ford putting his hand on his head like this and just shaking his head and then pleading with us. We've got to move on. And he, the next thing you know, and 5 years later, here we are. 4 years ago when I was sworn in as mayor, I said, buckle up. Man, thanks to you, it's been one heck of a ride.
Not always. Maybe sometimes we're buckling up because it's been bumpy, but.
We talked about it. It took a while to get the car going up to full speed, but we did.
I don't know if I shared with you all my time at the Country Inn and Suites while you all were voting for or against or getting
think you were
confused
leaving
over
and then-
over whether the big number meant you were in the lead or behind. But I've told staff many times that as you all were saying that he's not the one for us and let's go back to the drawing board, I'm taking my suits out of the closet and just stuffing them in my garment bag, going, I don't freaking need this place anyhow. And then Bob started turning the table, and I'm like, oh. And then after you all voted, the mayor, Alan Green, stood there and said, "You better call him. He's probably north of Bunnell by now."
He did say that.
And nobody in the room had my phone number. So that's when I sat back in my chair. I went, I'm going to watch for a while. Donna Steinbach, she goes, I don't have his phone number. Robin didn't have, or whoever was sitting right here didn't have the phone number. And I laughed for about 5 minutes. And when Alan Green said, no, seriously, call him now. I said, all right, I'll put them out of their misery. I called, I think I called Alan. I called whoever I had the phone number for and said, I'm on my way. Let me put my suit back on. And then I called my wife and she goes, what the hell are you taking that job for? I said, I'm not sure I am yet. I got to get down there.
I gotta go talk to him again.
Yeah. So, no, it was fun. And that and my fountain pen, this one, exploding in front of Scott's about 2 minutes before I went to interview Scott Stiltner. My hands were blue. My hands, the cuff of my shirt. It was awesome. Awesome. Good times, gentlemen. The good news is that day it only got better from there. So that was the worst day of my non-career here before I started. So
It was navy blue ink, though.
it was.
I'm just saying.
It was navy blue ink. So I appreciate everybody.
Alan, do you have something to add?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd like to give my thanks from a staff perspective. I know they will as well, but I remember it was highly unusual. I don't know if any of the council remembers. The first time you did an evaluation on Jake, I came up and praised Jake. And normally you don't see that from a staff member coming up and praising the city manager during an evaluation. It was very odd. And then I thought to myself, and I said, he's one of the best bosses I've ever had. He's been great for us, been great for the staff. And then I thought, wow, what if he's really horrible next year? What do I say next year when they go, hey, Alan, you want to come up again?
Nope.
But it didn't change, and I've been very lucky to have been serving under Jake for the last almost 6 years. And he, like you said, he brings a different perspective, and I'm kind of in the middle between David Harden and Jake Johansson. I don't talk all that much. A lot of that times, some people will say,
Thank you.
yeah, don't you have anything to say? And I'm like, well, when I agree with 99% of the stuff that comes out of the man's mouth, why prolong the discussion? Yeah, he's been a really good asset. I think we've all learned a lot from him, and we're sad to see him go, and glad he'll still be here, and looking forward to the future.
You better hope he answers his phone when you call in a couple of weeks.
I'll call from a different number.
Make sure you have his
A
number.
burner phone.
The burner phone.
Thank you, my friend.
We good? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Council Committee Report, City Council Fire Pension Board that met last month on the 16th.
Yes, we did. Actually, it was a pretty routine meeting. We didn't have anything that crazy to talk about. We did our normal business, review of expenses, review of the portfolio. There is $35 million in the fund. It gained $2 million in the quarter, and there were additional $324,000 in contributions. So really the fund has done very well. It was ahead of the strategic model, and it was ranked in the top 25th percentile in the nation. So it's doing very well for its members. We had, once again, extensive discussion of the self-directed investment option, whether to offer that to plan members. The ordinance provides for that, and we've discussed it the last couple of quarters. After lengthy discussion, it was the pension board's recommendation not to offer that right now because the return of investment, the cost versus performance, certainly the model they're using now and the financial provider they've been using, they think is really beneficial, and so that's really the best option for people in the drop program. So I'm sure that'll continue to come up, but we want to let the members know that after really serious discussion for the second time, we really think the performance they're getting is good enough. And then I guess to hearten us all, the financial advisor did suggest that the returns continued strong this past quarter, which seems to indicate optimism in businesses and employment, and hopefully that will continue for everybody, regardless of what fund they're in and where their pension lies.
Police Pension Board?
Okay, we had a meeting on November 19th, so it was a very strong quarter, 6.17% net of fees. Fiscal year to date, or fiscal year for the previous year, 9.77 net of fees. So that was an outstanding year. The assumed rate of return during that period was 7.25%, so they exceeded it significantly, I'd say. Market value on 10/1, 2019, $40,813,000 and change. Market value on 9/30 of 20, $45,527,000
Robust return.
and some change. As of 11/18, the day before the meeting, he pulled the numbers because I always ask him current. The plan was sitting at $48,440,000, and I'm told since then it's up several $100,000 since the 18th. So that plan continues to do well. Basically, in a little over a year, even with the downturn in the market, the plan was up almost $8 million.
6 months ago, we thought all these plans were headed for
And it
disaster this year.
suffered 2.5, almost $3 million in losses in that one quarter. So I
Terrific
think
bounce
that's
back.
very encouraging, very good news. And for next year, they did agree to continue to bump that assumed rate of return down by 1/10. So the rate moving forward in 2021 to 2022 will be 7.15% instead of the 7.25, and that actually keeps us below where the state is, I think, or right in line with what the state's assumed rate of return is for FRS.
Okay.
So plan's doing with everything that's happened. I think the plan's doing really well.
Scott, you had River to Sea TPO?
Yeah, but I want to thank Drew for keeping a really good eye on that plan for me.
We got ANCO and the advisors and everybody. They're really
Good.
We got some good people looking out for us, and the things that are out of their control, they're doing their part and making adjustments and restructuring and reinvesting and doing things that are helping us, and so it's been really good.
River to Sea TPO had a meeting that had to be canceled for lack of a quorum, which may be a little bit problematic if infection rates and COVID concerns continue to increase. That's a really large group, so
Yeah.
it takes quite a few to get a quorum, and because we're no longer able to meet virtually or through Zoom, this particular meeting had to be canceled. So we'll see what happens moving forward. That board may have some challenges. Hopefully not. The staff at TPO is working on trying to only have those that absolutely have to be there. They're reaching out specifically one-on-one to see who can attend and try to make the quorums happen so that we can keep business moving forward in that. So we'll keep you posted on that one.
Okay. I just want to thank everybody, this council, but all the citizens of Port Orange. Last night at midnight, we moved out of hurricane season and into Christmas season. And with that, I hope it brings everybody the joy and hopes that we so richly deserve in what's been a tough year. I thank everybody for the faith they put in me to put me back here for 4 final years. And with this council, I've got to believe the best is yet to come. With that, everybody, have a good night.